ADC is an organization that represents the communities, states, and regions that host a significant military presence. So you point to a base on the map of the United States, and we have a member there.
Blue Star Families is a national nonprofit whose mission is to support military families and strengthen communities in which they live.
And so you put those two organizations together, and I think you cover a lot of ground.
Right around March, things started changing in a big way for everyone in the country.
Now to growing concerns about the deadly coronavirus officially hitting the U.S.
President Trump declaring a national emergency.
Desperate measures as New York City hospitals are overrun. Makeshift hospitals are being built.
These are Americans. There are parents and our grandparents. There are kids and our neighbors. They're people.
Matt reached out to me and said, hey, what can ADC and Blue Star Families do together? And I was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's start. Let's just roll.
It happened very quickly, and it needed to. COVID-19 was spreading very quickly.
Within days, we had started to put together ways that people in communities, whether they were local to the communities or military families themselves, could get a sense what is going on.
And now, today's CMSI virtual event.
We knew the webinars would be an important part of this initiative.
And every time a crisis has happened in this country, we always say, gosh, I wish we could go back to the way it was. But that's not our job. Our job is to figure out how to go back to the way that is.
The CMSI town halls have been a tremendous resource for military families, and they have truly made an impact.
We could find out what are people's pain points and what do they want help with.
%of military family respondents report that educational services for children is a top 3 need for their family during COVID, up from 24% just 5 weeks ago.
And we could take that information, come back to leadership, grassroots to grass tops, and say, hey, help us answer the mail.
Just know that we're looking at that very closely and balancing the health of those children as first and foremost.
I think we all have to take a look at what have you learned from the past number of months.
Communication is awfully important in times of great disruption, and definitely this pandemic is no different.
We realized there was a need for a daily update of information. There was a collection of stories from across the country, a collection of new initiatives that were being put out by the Pentagon, by Congress, by state and local governments. I think our country is now in a position, at least at defense communities and installations, where we understand what this pandemic is. We understand the different resources that are out there.
Because of CMSI, we've helped solve problems for the community as a whole in a way that people working on their own really can't.
It will take time, but we will get through this, and we will get through this together and stronger.
Good afternoon. I'm Tim Ford, CEO at the Association of Defense Communities. Thank you all for being with us this afternoon. Today, we come together to celebrate the accomplishments of the COVID-19 Military Support Initiative and its impact. While the formal component of CMSI is wrapping up, with this event, we know its legacy will continue to have an impact in the years ahead. From my first call to Kathy about this idea in March to today, we have done so much over the past few months. We've hosted 26 town halls with over 19,000 total participants and welcomed a number of high-level leaders, including General John Hyten, Second Lady Karen Pence, and a number of leaders from the Department of Veterans Affairs and other elected officials. Our newsletter, which at the start of the pandemic was being shared daily, has readers that are counted in the tens of thousands. None of these immense efforts could have been possible without our sponsors. CMSI is presented by Booz Allen Hamilton with significant support from USAA. We'd also like to thank the Association of Military Banks of America, Bristol-Myers Squibb Foundation, the Military Housing Association, First Command Financial, Hunt Companies, and JB Morgan Chase Company. And now I'd like to welcome Kathy Roth-Duquette, who will be joining me today as co-MC for this afternoon's program. Hi, Kathy. What a wild 6 months it's been. Can you believe how far we've come since March and all we were able to accomplish?
Hey, Tim, it's great to see you. And yes, it's pretty crazy. First of all, we had no idea we'd be doing this for 6 months. We really thought this was going to be a 1 month, 2 month kind of a challenge. We were so motivated to work with ADC because it represents the communities that our families live in. And that makes all the difference to us.
I agree. The work our staff has done is excellent, but the impact on our ADC members has been extraordinary and will have a lasting presence.
Absolutely. And for our families and our partner organizations, just the same. We hear that over and over again. So hello, everyone. As Tim said, I'm Kathy Roth-Duquette. I'm the founder of Blue Star Families. I'm excited to be here today to help MC the 6 months in review COVID-19 lessons for military families and communities. I marvel at all our excellent team and partners have been able to accomplish in the last 6 months. In addition to the town halls, we've hosted weekly gatherings of top leaders from corporate, nonprofit, and government sectors through our White Oak Collaborative. We've maintained the pulse of the military community through our weekly pain point poll. These efforts have been able to provide real-time information that helped influence prompt policy reforms, such as expanding fee assistance eligibility in the wake of Child Development Center closures. None of this important work would have been possible without our CMSI partners through the White Oak Collaborative who joined us in those efforts. We want to thank those partners who are with us on this call today, many of whom will be presenting later. Here are the logos of those fantastic organizations. Today, we'll be joined by a number of important leaders and subject matter experts to review the work of the past 6 months and look to the future. Our special guests include Matthew Donovan, the Undersecretary of Defense for Personnel and Readiness, and Betty Thompson, the Chief People Officer of Booz Allen Hamilton. Together, we'll share with you the key findings from our pain point polls from our working groups. We'll discuss some interesting case studies and look at implications and recommendations for the next 6 months. As you follow along from home, we ask you to share your thoughts and questions in the chat feature, whether you're on our website or on Facebook Live. We would love to hear from you and we'll be chatting back. So I'd love to tell you a little bit about our experience in Norfolk. During the first 10 weeks of the pandemic, CMSI fielded a critical pain points poll to pulse the military community. The data generated by these weekly pulse polls helped shine a light on the acute stressors felt in our communities. We had a particularly robust response from the local pain points poll in the Norfolk, Virginia area, and these results allowed us to paint a distinct picture of the local stressors and responses in this community. We'd like to share with you a case study highlighting the Commonwealth of Virginia and the Norfolk area. To help get us started, I'd like to welcome my friend, the wife of the Commandant of the Coast Guard, active CMSI participant, Dawn Schultz, to say a few words. Dawn?
Hello, everyone. I am Dawn Schultz, and it's been my honor to support the efforts of CMSI over the last 6 months. As a military spouse for over 31 years, I'm familiar with the challenges military families face as they navigate their service members' career. The current pandemic has only compounded these challenges. At the start of the pandemic, CMSI fielded their weekly pain points poll to help pulse in to the needs and concerns of our community. The Norfolk area had a robust response, allowing a unique view of the local area. The local military and civilian leadership has been quick to respond to these local issues. We would now like to highlight this case study to show you a personal side of the work that was done.
Hi, I'm Jenny Aiken, the co-director of Applied Research here at Blue Star Families. I was lucky enough to get to lead our Pain Points poll, a signature continuous polling effort that CMSI conducted during the early months of the pandemic. This poll became a go-to place for decision makers who were trying to make sense of what was going on with military families and veterans and figure out what to do about it. Sometimes understanding that data can be easier when you have a name and a place to attach to it.
Booz Allen Hamilton has provided us this really cool tool that can help us understand what the COVID situation was like for residents, especially in the Norfolk area, when they responded to the survey in week 10. We are going to be looking at active cases per 100,000 here. So that survey was fielded between May 20th and May 26th. You can see in here that population was nowhere near the level of COVID cases they would experience in the coming months. And even today, when I'm recording this, you can see that they still have not reached the level that they were when the respondents who took the survey in week 10 were dealing with the situation.
Military family life is challenging in the best of times, and COVID has brought with it new challenges for the entire country, but what it didn't do was erase those challenges that we were already dealing with. The period of the stop movement order was crazy. Our entire lives changed in 72 hours. There were just emotions all over the place, trying to help our kids figure out how they were balancing this new routine, trying to figure out how we could get my husband home, if it was possible to get him home. There seemed to be a lot of confusion between commands and different people within the Navy on how that actually would play into getting that approval. My children have handled it completely differently from each other. And my 17-year-old, I think, has been able to handle things quite well. But the longer this has gone on, he actually is becoming more and more anxious. He's a senior in high school this year, so he's very concerned because his SATs have been canceled now 4 times. Just the idea that he now has to potentially pick a college to commit to with never having been able to step foot on the campus and see it. On the flip side, my younger son, his anxiety in the very beginning was tied largely to his dad not being able to come home and not in school. He lost his entire support system. Aside from our family. He is very fortunate, we are very fortunate that he goes to a school that is very military, culturally competent. They do deployment support groups amongst other activities, and that just stopped. One of the things that happened during all of this is I just decided something had to give. Something had to give in my own life. I couldn't be running myself ragged at both ends. And then my husband did come home, which was great. But he came home and he found out right away that he had to leave again. The decision had to be made that while I liked my job, and I was very thankful for the job that I had, it was just too much and it just didn't work for the expectations of what I needed to do for our family at this point in time. I actually had resigned from the position that I had at the time, and able to make all of this work for our family. So now more than ever, military families need patience, compassion, and understanding and flexibility as we navigate these uncertain times.
Here in Virginia, we have a Virginia Military Advisory Council that consists of the commanders of all of the leading installations and missions around the Commonwealth. We're able to share with those commanders information about what the Commonwealth is doing to serve the needs of not just the local communities, but of their military communities as well. And that's one of the reasons that the Pain Points poll provided by Blue Star Families was so important. We were able to take the information from that poll and then share that information with the various veteran service organizations and active duty installations around the Commonwealth. That information was vital in that it addressed everything from child care services to employment opportunities and just any service or resource that the members of our respective communities needed. It's important that you're engaged frequently with the leaders of the respective organizations so that information is shared in a timely manner. and we maintained frequent communication with our military commanders of the various installations and missions here in the Commonwealth. We also engaged our National Guard. We initially started by looking at alternate care sites for the National Guard. We expanded their roles and responsibilities to include testing. We also had our National Guard participate in food distribution, as well as providing training on how to properly wear some of the protective equipment that was being distributed around the state. And so I want to thank each of our defense community partners for their work and support in this effort. I want to extend a special thanks to you, the CMSI, to the Association of Defense Communities, to Blue Star Families, and all those who have supported our efforts here in the Commonwealth to make Virginia the best place for our veterans, our active duty personnel, and their families.
Welcome back. What a great story of collaboration. Over the last 6 months, CMSI has been fortunate to welcome a number of top-level government and corporate leaders to our programs. These leaders were instrumental in helping validate our work, inform our policy ideas, and share the important stress points that came to light for military communities, families, and veterans. Now, to help us review some of those top-level takeaways and key lessons for the future, it is my great honor to welcome Betty Thompson, Chief People Officer at Booz Allen Hamilton, who will introduce our next special guest.
At Booz Allen, we know that military families also serve their country through their sacrifices and dedication to our nation's defense. That's why we believe supporting military families and caregivers is essential to military readiness and to promoting a more sustainable military. This public-private partnership has spurred innovative solutions to help military families get through COVID-19, and it has exemplified 2 key values that we prioritize at Booz Allen: data-driven solutions and what we like to call collective ingenuity. The collective research of this coalition and the insights of both nonprofit and government leaders led to immediate relief for military families struggling to get through this crisis. We're proud to have contributed to that research in a small way through the donation of our data analytics and our AI public health tool, EPI Maps. Yet it is obvious that the real secret to success of this initiative is the collective ingenuity of more than 60 nonprofits and multiple federal agencies who work together in real time, assessing the data and coming together to find what works in a rapidly changing environment. That collective work has created a groundswell of support for families. It could not have happened without the collaboration and creativity of the partners, including the Department of Defense and especially the Office of the Secretary of Defense. That is why I'm so pleased to introduce our keynote speaker for today, Undersecretary of Defense for Personnel and Readiness, Matthew Donovan. Undersecretary Donovan began his service as a pilot in the U.S. Air Force, where he retired with 31 distinguished years of service. After retiring from active duty, Mr. Donovan joined the Senate Armed Services Committee as a professional staff member before moving on to serve as Undersecretary and then Acting Secretary of the U.S. Air Force. In 2020, he was appointed to serve as Undersecretary of Defense for Personnel and Readiness, providing policy guidance and oversight for the readiness, management, and healthcare of more than 4.5 million service members, retirees, their families, and the civilian workforce. We are honored to have Mr. Donovan with us today to share his insights on the pandemic's impact on our military community, as well as his thoughts on the coming months as we continue to navigate the challenges ahead together. Mr. Donovan, welcome.
Thank you, Betty, for the warm introduction, and hello, everyone. It's an honor to be here today to address the members of our Blue Star families and the Association of Defense Communities. On behalf of Secretary of Defense Mark Esper, thank you for the support you provide to our service members, their families, and our military communities. Service members and their families continue to be a top priority for Secretary Esper. Our role in personnel and readiness is to enhance the readiness of the Department of Defense and optimize personnel programs and training and education and provide world-class health care, quality family support, and force resiliency through diversity, inclusion, and equal opportunity. The importance of what we do in personnel and readiness has only increased due to the challenges we faced during the COVID-19 global pandemic. Back in January, I received a call from my Assistant Secretary of Defense for Health Affairs, who was closely monitoring the situation in China. After consulting with Secretary Esper, by the end of January, I issued the department's first force health protection guidance addressing COVID-19 to protect our people. Since that time, we have closely followed Secretary Esper's 3 priorities for COVID-19 response, which are, first, protecting the health and safety of our service members, their families, and our civilian workforce. Second, maintaining our national security mission capabilities. And third, supporting the whole-of-nation response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Also, since January, we have issued a total of 13 force health protection supplements that address a wide range of issues impacting our military members, their families, and our civilians. We ensured our installation commanders have the authorities and guidance they need to balance force health protection with mission requirements and lean forward on adjusting personnel policies to keep pace with the evolving situation. These adjustments help people impacted by travel restrictions, extended expiration dates of military independent ID cards, and allowed service members to carry over up to 120 days of accrued leave into fiscal year 2023. Additionally, we designated commissaries and other support facilities as mission essential so they could remain open throughout the pandemic. On the medical front, our Defense Health Agency and TRICARE made several changes to expand and incentivize telehealth services to ensure our beneficiaries received necessary care, extended licensed providers greater flexibility to provide health care services in other states, and waived co-pays and cost shares for in-network telehealth services. Our military health system also quickly responded by making significant investments to accelerate the research and development of vaccines, therapeutics, and diagnostics. At Secretary Esper's direction in June, we began our COVID convalescent plasma collection program. Through this effort, we collected blood plasma from individuals who fully recovered from COVID-19 and used it to treat those hospitalized with the infection and for research and development of advanced treatment options. Our family resources are especially critical during the pandemic. To support our military communities, we significantly increased our military community and family policy efforts. We launched a section on our Military OneSource website specifically dedicated to COVID-19 to ensure our military community received the latest and most accurate information. And just this month, we launched the My Military OneSource mobile application, which is available for download on smartphones and tablets to provide easier access to information, support, and referrals. On the education front, our Department of Defense Education Activity, or DODEA, operates 160 schools across 62 military communities. Early in the COVID-19 pandemic, DODEA quickly responded to transition over 70,000 students and 14,000 faculty to remote education environments. They also issued nearly 8,000 laptop computers and created 250 Wi-Fi hotspots for students lacking these resources at home. After careful consideration and depending upon local conditions, DODEA recently decided to return to full-time physical school operations for students and staff to the maximum extent possible as the optimal learning environment. Secretary Esper and all of us at the Department of Defense hold an unwavering commitment to caring for our warfighters and their families. In personnel and readiness, we understand how much our people rely on the resources we provide, so this is a no-fail mission for us. Thank you again for your service and sacrifice to our nation and for your continued strong support to our military communities.
Thank you, and we are honored to have you join us today, and we appreciate your support of CMSI. We look forward to working with you in the coming months. Kathy, I'll pass it back to you to continue the program.
Thank you, Tim. And let me echo my thanks to Secretary Donovan, Betty. Thank you both so much. It's an honor to have you with us. And we appreciate the degree to which you've supported and allowed our initiative to be possible. So the military life cycle, of course, goes through active duty and into veteran status. The pandemic created a lot of challenges, particularly for those who were transitioning to veteran status and for our veterans as well. We are very grateful to have had the participation of the Veterans Experience Office, the VBA and the VHA with CMSI in helping with the town halls and the working groups. I'd now like to welcome our partner, Pete Jeffries from AARP, who will help introduce a special report from our friends at the Department of Veterans Affairs. Pete?
Hello, everyone. I'm Pete Jeffries, AARP's National Engagements Director and co-lead of our Veterans, Military, and Their Families Strategic Initiative, which focuses on delivering free resources and timely programming on caregiving for wounded warriors, fighting fraud through Operation Protect Veterans, and helping our heroes find work and jobs. At AARP, we know how valuable our veterans and military families are to this great nation, and the unique struggles they've been facing during the pandemic. As a proud member of the COVID-19 Military Support Initiative, we've been able to team up with other service organizations to better understand this critical community's challenges, begin to deliver innovative solutions. Now, to share some of the great work being done to support our nation's veterans and military families, I'd like to welcome one of those we've been collaborating with, Dr. Lynda Davis, Chief Experience Officer of the Department of Veterans Affairs.
Good afternoon. I'm Lynda Davis. I'm the Chief Veteran Experience Officer at the Department of Veterans Affairs. And it's an honor to be with you this afternoon to share some of the ways in which the Department of Veterans Affairs has responded to veterans and their families, caregivers, and survivors during the challenging times we've all experienced with COVID-19. I want to have a special moment to thank Blue Star Families, the Association of Defense Communities, and CMSI for the efforts that you've undertaken to make sure that the needs of these important members of our communities are understood and addressed during the pandemic. I'd like to start by sharing with you some of the ways in which we've responded to the needs of our veterans. So we sent over 40 million texts directly to veterans that related to their specific services in their community and their facility, letting them know what was open and when and how to reach the service providers. We also initiated the technology of a chatbot so veterans could ask questions remotely. Over 93,000 of those were used to answer veterans' concerns or those of their family and caregivers. We, of course, continued the White House VA hotline, and there we had about 453,000 veterans and family members call in to ask questions 24/7 about the services available to them during the pandemic. In addition to the White House VA hotline, we answered calls through our new 311 contact center. We specifically addressed non-clinical COVID calls with frequently asked questions that veterans could receive information day or night on concerns they had on information that they needed. Also, we issued our Vet Resource e-newsletter that goes out every Wednesday night. In fact, we sent out over 309 million pieces of information related to COVID. Understanding how important it is to engage the communities, groups like Blue Star Families, like the Association of Defense Communities. Thanks to donations, we were able to provide over 7,000 portals for veterans and their loved ones to use to ensure they were able to communicate when they were separated from another. And veterans have said thank you. They've said thank you not only in the many compliments that they have left through our V-Signal surveys, but they've also expressed their thanks through their trust in the VA. In fact, in April, VA had the highest trust score ever. We were at 80% for overall services to the VA. We want to get to 100% to serve those who have served us all. We couldn't do it without you. We thank you very much, and we're glad to share our responses and our innovations with our community partners.
Thank you, Linda, for your incredibly hardworking team and for all that you do in this subject. It's really extraordinarily impressive. To continue with our Veteran Special Report, I'd like to welcome Dr. Paul Lawrence, who's Undersecretary for Benefits in the Department of Veterans Affairs. Dr. Lawrence?
Hello. I'm pleased to be here as part of this important collaborative effort to support military families. Thank you to the Blue Star families and the Association of Defense Communities. We are grateful to CMSI for helping us keep our ear to the ground to truly understand the needs of veterans and families during this extraordinary time. When COVID-19 hit, it changed the nation and the way we work at VVA. But one thing did not change. Veterans and families still needed us. The need for benefits didn't stop. Mortgage and tuition payments didn't stop. Life had to go on. In fact, VVA's purpose, to provide veterans the benefits they've earned in a manner that honors their service, was and is as critical as ever. Whether you're a veteran, a family member, or you represent a VSO, I want to make sure that you know about the critical resources VBA offers and how you can draw on them. First, education benefits. When the pandemic hit, students were immediately affected as colleges and universities quickly pivoted to online classes. Thousands of students had questions about how their education benefits would be affected. President Trump signed legislation that allows veterans and families to continue to maximize their GI Bill benefit during COVID-19. If you are a student, you will continue to receive your monthly housing allowance even if college courses go online. You will continue to receive work-study hourly entitlements at the rate of 25 hours per week. And you will have your GI Bill entitlement restored if their program of study is closed, either temporarily or permanently, due to COVID-19. If you or others you know have questions or concerns about GI Bill benefits, see the information on the screen. I want you to know that VBA continues to process home loans during the pandemic as well. In fact, VBA's Home Loan Guarantee Program has had a record-breaking year, guaranteeing more than 1 million loans. When you have a VA home loan guarantee, you can save a significant amount of money on a home loan purchase because we do not require mortgage insurance or down payments. Veterans who are interested in purchasing or refinancing a home, see the information on screen. Almost a year ago, VBA introduced the Solid Start program, which fundamentally changed the way VA interacts with veterans. Whereas in the past, veterans had to reach out to VA for service, now we initiate contact with them. In the crucial first year following departure of military service, veterans will be contacted 3 times. Highly trained representatives provide consistent caring contact to connect veterans to an array of benefits and services, including mental health resources. And when needed, warm transfers to the VA crisis line. As of September, VA has contacted more than 66,000 veterans through Solid Start. If you are a newly transitioning veteran and haven't heard from us, please let us know, as we may need to update our contact information. When the pandemic prohibited travel, VBA was challenged to stay connected with veterans who had questions about basic service, filing claims, or who were simply confused how to engage with VA in this new environment. Like you, we began offering town halls. From Alaska to Maine, we hosted more than 80 calls, connecting with more than 3 million veterans. I will continue to engage directly with veterans with these teletown halls, and I encourage you to join me. A current schedule of upcoming calls can be found on the screen. VBA offers a broad array of benefits and services for veterans. Whether in person or virtually, our team is available to address your needs and direct you to the right information and resources to accomplish your goals. VBA will continue to deliver world-class service to our country's veterans, today and tomorrow, regardless of COVID. VBA is here for you, wherever you are, ready to address your needs. I invite you to learn about the full range of VBA benefits and services that are available to veterans and their families. And thank you for your time and continued partnership.
Thank you, Dr. Lawrence, for that great brief and for the town halls that VA did with Blue Star Families and ADC under CMSI. If anyone would like to see those, they're on our website. The links that Dr. Lawrence shared, we'll place on the website as well. And if for those of you who registered, we'll send those and others directly to you after this call. Tim, can I welcome you back to help introduce our special guest, General Mrs. Heighton, next.
Thanks, Kathy. As I mentioned earlier, we've been fortunate to welcome so many leaders from DoD, support organizations, and communities. As we wrap CMSI, we wanted to reconnect with one of the more important guests we'd had, General John Heighton, Vice Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and his spouse, Mrs. Laura Heighton. Both have been key supporters of this initiative over the last 6 months. Their input has helped inform our work and guide what we do. Please join me in welcoming General and Mrs. Heighton.
Hello, I'm General John Heighton, and I serve as Vice Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
And I'm Laura Heighton.
COVID-19 has in so many ways changed our lives. It's presented challenges that we can only get through with support from our family, friends, and our communities.
Our ways of living and thinking have evolved from how we treat our health, fitness, and our well-being of ourselves and our families,
to the impact of isolation and lack of connectedness on the mental health of our service members.
But we, the military, are one big family. Many organizations have come forward to create much-needed initiatives to help service members and their families navigate this pandemic. This initiative has helped improve collaboration across government, corporate, and nonprofit sectors.
This provided a venue for concerns within local military communities and a platform to share information. Laura and I are grateful for the resources provided for military service members and their families, and we'd like to extend a big thank you to all who have made this possible.
Thank you for being there for our service members and their families, and thank you for all of the hard work and dedication you continually show to our military communities.
General Heighton, Laura, thank you so much for your leadership. Thank you for being with us here today and for all you do to comfort and take care of our families. Now I'm delighted to discuss our working groups. Over the summer, we convened a series of working groups to help address the key stressors felt by military families in the defense community and what the best responses might be. Over a 6-week period, CMSI convened 5 working groups, which focus on financial impacts on the family, K-12 education, installation management and local partnerships, installation community crisis response, and data analysis. These working groups pulled together top subject matter experts in each topic in the nonprofit, corporate, philanthropic, and government sectors, many of them current partners in the White Oak Collective. Through the guided discussions, small working groups, and facilitated review, each working group pulled together key recommendations that are shared in the white paper and executive summary that will be available to you all now. To introduce our working groups, I'd like to introduce my dear friend and fellow military spouse, CNN anchor,
Hi there, I'm Brianna Keeler of CNN right now, and I have so enjoyed participating in and sharing the work of CMSI over the past 6 months. The gathering of so many people to discuss the creative solutions to the complex issues military families are facing have been so important. As a military spouse myself, so many of these issues impact me not only professionally, but also personally. A key component of the COVID-19 Military Support Initiative has been a series of working groups that came together over several weeks this summer. And these working groups brought together experts in various fields to discuss financial impacts on families, local communities, and installations, K-12 education, and data analysis. During the next part of today's event, you'll be hearing from facilitators in each of these areas who will discuss the key takeaways and recommendations from each working group. So let's get started started, I'd like to introduce Kobe Langley from the American Red Cross.
Hi, my name is Kobe Langley. I'm a Senior Vice President for Servicing Armed Forces at the American Red Cross. These past 6 months with CMSI have been exceptionally insightful as to the financial needs of veterans and military families. The Red Cross provides millions of dollars in financial assistance with our military aid societies, and we're seeing an increased focus on financial needs and readiness for our military families. So I want to say thank you to CMSI, and I also want to introduce you to Mike Neese, who's working on the Financial Assistance Work Group for Veterans and Military Families. Mike, take it away.
Hello, I'm Michael Mace, the president of AFMA, the American Armed Forces Mutual Aid Association. I had the honor of being one of the facilitators of the COVID-19 Military Support Initiative Working Group that examined financial impacts on the military family. Our group included 45 experts from government, the military, corporate, and nonprofit sectors, including leaders from the DoD, the VA, and several military relief societies. While we covered a lot of ground, I'm going to summarize our findings in 4 major areas: the military checkbook, the stop movement order, spouse employment, and finally, military child care. The first, somewhat surprising observation is that not all impacts were negative. For example, nearly all military families qualified for a CARES Act check from the federal government. A military family with a spouse and 3 children, for example, received a $3,900 check, which is a significant windfall that not only helped families deal with the COVID crisis, but improved their overall financial readiness. We saw this effect as measured in the CMSI pain points polling. The number of families who reported using credit cards to cover necessary expenses during the crisis fell from 44% in week 1 of the polling in March to only 20% by week 10 of the polling in May. Similarly, while military relief societies, which were highlighted during the second CMSI town hall meeting back in April, stood ready to provide assistance to military families, Army Emergency Relief and Coast Guard Mutual Assistance reported that requests were actually less than they had anticipated. One area of negative impact, however, was Secretary of Defense EXPR's 25 March 2020 stop movement order that dramatically affected thousands of military families in the midst of a move. Families reported military financial hardship due to the fees incurred from breaking or extending leases, money lost from halting the sale of a house, double mortgages due to travel restrictions, and loss of down payments or deposits. Some families faced extra costs when their vehicles or household goods had been shipped prior to the order. As DoD implemented programs to address the effects of the stop movement order and military families understood their circumstances better, family anxiety and the financial burden lessened. For example, the number of families reporting unexpected out-of-pocket expenses as a result of rescheduling a PCS fell from 27% in week 1 to only 8% in week 10. Similarly, those who reported that they would be paying 2 leases within 60 days fell from 21% to 12% by week 10. Although it had an impact on those PCSing, stop movement also affected those who were staying in place. The Pain Points poll reported that over half of military families had to cancel participating in a life event, such as a vacation, graduation, anniversary, or wedding, due to the stop movement. This resulted in a loss of money, causing both financial and emotional stress. Beyond the stop movement order, military spouse employment, which is always a challenge, was magnified under COVID-19. Some military spouses were laid off, others had to balance job requirements with children that are newly at home, and still others had to find childcare when both spouses were deemed essential. The Pain Points poll reported that 17% of those who had been employed prior to the pandemic reported that they had lost their job or were unable to work. Now, one silver lining of the COVID-19 crisis is that the general population has learned something that many military spouses already knew. Remote work actually does work. The COVID-19 remote work surge could benefit highly mobile military spouses that are already accustomed from home. Finally, closely related to spouse employment is the need for childcare. The COVID-19 crisis exacerbated a problem that most military families already knew. Childcare, either on or off an installation, is hard to acquire, difficult to afford, and can be a significant stressor to working parents. During the 10 weeks of the Pain Points poll, 17% of civilian and military mission essential personnel surveyed were unable to find or use childcare. Although some could find childcare, as many as 54% of the respondents said that their family was currently unable to use their previously normal childcare provider. This creates stress for the children, parents, and providers. Based upon looking at these 4 areas, we came up with some important takeaways and policy recommendations. I'll just highlight 6 of them. First, military families must develop the tools and discipline to save, prioritize spending, and thereby lessen the financial effects of any catastrophic event. Simply stated, financial resilience is readiness. Second, such financial training needs to be holistic, with a communication plan that includes relief societies and forums with spouses so that military families can both take advantage of windfalls and avoid financial pitfalls. Third, military services and community organizations should have the resources, policies, and procedures to help military families logistically and financially in the event of a future stop movement scenario, whether that's for a worldwide pandemic or a local stop movement condition. Fourth, employers should understand which employers are also full-time caregivers and or hybrid homeschool teachers so that they can facilitate flexibility in work schedules. Fifth, there needs to be programs to support technology and internet access for those military families who do not have it, and that would support both remote workers as well as children's education from home. And finally, DoD policies should treat care providers as essential, especially as they care for the children of mission essential workers. Overall, government, private, nonprofit, and relief societies work proactively to respond to the unanticipated and unprecedented challenges of the COVID-19 crisis. By discussing the lessons learned about checkbook issues, stop movement, spouse employment, and childcare, we can be better prepared not just for a possible pandemic, but for all the other challenges that stress the financial readiness of military families.
Hi, my name is Paula Monticelli, and I'm the Director of Basing for the Navy Secretariat. In July, ADC's COVID-19 Military Support Initiative launched a military installation management and community partnership working group. This group looked at how our installations in surrounding communities adapted their operations and leveraged partnerships in response to this pandemic. Hearing the stories about how our installations and communities came together during this time of crisis was truly inspiring. One of the key takeaways from this analysis was the fact that leveraging existing partnerships was so much easier than establishing new ones during a pandemic. Building and nurturing these types of relationships truly benefit us all.
Good afternoon. My name is Kathleen Ferguson. I'm an ADC board member and also a senior advisor at the Roosevelt Group. This afternoon, I'm going to summarize the results of the working group under the COVID Military Support Initiative for Installation Community Crisis Response. This working group discussed how communities and installations partnered to provide emergency COVID response services and to identify best practices that could be shared. Our review showed positive partnerships could reap benefits for installations in their communities during times of crises. In many cases, the military installation leadership saw a need for COVID-19 related services in response and looked to their local communities. Likewise, the community looked to military installations for support and vital information. For example, installations with success stories of acquiring or supplying personal protective equipment already had partnerships in place with local community leaders or advocates. Next, we found that partnering of the military with local communities for testing and tracing became a vital effort. Over 70% of our military members and their families live and work in the community, and the virus does not recognize base boundaries. Additionally, medical partnerships, such as the one at Naval Air Station Pensacola, were crucial. The installation partnered with the local Baptist hospital system in preparation for COVID-19 related intensive care unit shortages. On-base facilities were prepped for patient care under the agreement that the installation would house non-COVID patients for the civilian hospital. In Kentucky, the Air National Guard and the Army Corps of Engineers teamed with Kentucky Emergency Management and the Department of Public Health to transform the Kentucky Fair and Exposition Center into an alternate care facility for patients recovering from COVID-19. Finally, we looked at family and wellness. A recent Blue Star Families Resilience Under Stress survey reported positive statistics about the importance of military families' ties to the local communities and how such ties can bolster health. The data demonstrates that a majority of military families have stronger ties to their local communities as a result of this pandemic. To briefly summarize working group takeaways and potential policy recommendations, number one, crisis response innovation and public-private partnership works best when an existing relationship exists between the installation and the outside. Communities and installations need to be in contact before the crisis occurs. Second, many states don't have a central state commission devoted to military affairs or a state organization that connects bases to each other and to the community. Building such alliances make public-private partnerships during a time of crisis that much more efficient and advantageous to state citizens and the military members within those states. And lastly, the communication between installations and outside communities has to be continual in two-way. The goal is to share best practices from partnerships built during the pandemic and continue to find ways for installations in their communities to work together. Thanks for participating in this session this afternoon, and I hope you find it beneficial.
Hello, everyone. I'm Maria McConville. I have greatly enjoyed both sharing my insight and learning from others through CMSI. Children's education is such an important topic. Our 3 children are military brats, and they encountered their share of education challenges. I know military families are facing complex issues related to their children's education due to the pandemic and the complexities of military life. I appreciate the work CMSI has done, and it is my honor to introduce Dr. Becky Porter to share the findings of the K-12 Education Working Group. Dr. Porter, welcome and thank you.
Hi, I'm Dr. Becky Porter, the President and CEO of the Military Child Education Coalition. MSEC worked with CMSI in putting together a working group to look at K-12 issues for military-connected kids during COVID. This working group had more than 20 individuals in it, professionals who included psychiatrists, psychologists, educators, military family members, and national service organizations. What we looked at were 5 different issues that we think are of great concern to military families right now. We looked at social emotional well-being of military families and students in particular. We looked at school transitions. We looked at access to learning. We also looked at learning gaps around moving during COVID-19 and also issues around special education for military-connected children. In the social emotional and well-being group, they found that really routine and transparency are the most important things for military-connected students during this time. So a routine thing like making sure that your child gets up and gets dressed for school in the morning, even if they're not going to be leaving the house, is so important. For school transitions, we looked at how could we assist military families who were going to PCS during this time. We developed a toolkit and other recommendations for how families and schools could be flexible during this time and make sure that schools were ready, willing, and able to receive new students, even in a virtual environment if necessary. Speaking of a virtual environment, access to learning is one of the things that the working group looked at. In that vein, we looked at, did they have enough computers so that all their kids could be online, going to school virtually at the same time, even as a parent is working? Sometimes the issue is not, do we have enough computers, but do we have enough bandwidth? The working group decided that in some instances, families were probably going to need to increase their internet capacity. If they have the funding to do that, there are military service organizations and parts of the DoD that can help augment their income during this time. Learning gaps was another part of what the working groups looked at. Specifically, they wanted to make sure that students, when they left one school and had been learning in a virtual environment and went to a new school, whether it was going to be in person or virtually, that they didn't lose anything academically in that transition. Parents were especially concerned about this. And what the working group thought would be the best remedy in this situation is for parents to be educated about exactly where their child should be from an academic standpoint, so that when they get to the next school, they know where their child is, they know where they should be, and they can help get them placed in the right academic setting. Another area that the work group looked at was in the area of special needs and military children who need IEPs or have other educational special needs. Change is very difficult for children who have special needs, whether it's because they need a new IEP or just because their routine gets disrupted. And in COVID-19 environment, it's even worse. This working group looked at those aspects that maybe we can control, trying to provide some routine and normalcy for those kids, but also they looked at some aspirational things like portability for IEPs of military connected kids, so that when they go from one place to another, maybe they could take that IEP with them. It's really an aspiration and not something that's in our grasp right away, but something that the working group looked at. In all of these areas, the working group tried to ascertain what would be the biggest concern for parents and students in this environment. Also tried to look at what are some solutions to those, and then also what can we do in the future. The white paper looks at all of this.
Hi, everyone. I'm Meg Harrell with the Bob Woodruff Foundation. As a partner in the COVID-19 Support Initiative, we've been honored to support the data-driven work of the initiative to support our military and veteran communities. Over the past 6 months, I've watched numerous partner organizations, including the Bob Woodruff Foundation, come together to share their data and help create innovative solutions to the problems facing these unique communities. I would now like to introduce Laura Schmiegel from Booz Allen Hamilton and Jenny Aiken from Blue Star Families to share the important findings of our data analysis working group. Jenny and Laura, sending it over to you.
Hi, I'm Laura Schmiegel, Head of Military and Veteran Affairs at Booz Allen Hamilton.
And I'm Jenny Aiken, the co-director of applied research at Blue Star Families.
So, why did we choose to do a data analysis working group? CMSI was doing a lot of great research, but we also knew that the coalition partners were doing great work as well, and we wanted to look at all of it in one place. We also wanted to bring our researchers and policy experts across the coalition into one room together, so to speak, to take a look at all of these issues and talk about these things from different perspectives.
The data analysis working group really gave us the opportunity to take a deep look at topical issues like childcare, employment, and then identify how these impacted or were impacted by things like personnel and readiness, financial readiness, and access to resources and care. There were a handful of things that nearly every working group identified, not just the data analysis working group. And we think of these as kind of consensus issues. Childcare and military readiness are inextricably linked, especially when it comes to supporting women in uniform. Virtual work is critical to navigating the pandemic, but barriers exist to universal usage. The impact of reduced employment among military spouses and veterans will have long-term implications for military and veteran families' financial readiness.
All of these consensus issues spoke to the fact that there is a real need for the military to adapt to a 21st century workforce, culturally and structurally, to preserve operational and family readiness during a national emergency, just like the one we had. Our conversations validated that the ability to support military and veteran families is tied closely to the local community's ability to take care of its total population, and that military families benefit greatly when there's high-speed internet access and/or creative ways to deliver non-traditional schooling for military children. They've benefited from local civilian food banks and schools that found some really innovative ways to deliver meals to the kids who needed them.
And Although the data wasn't available when our group met, our Resilience Under Stress study now shows that military families grew deeper roots in their communities during this time. They feel a greater sense of belonging in them. They perceive their local neighbors better understand the sacrifices local military families are making. We can't lose sight of these silver linings and take the opportunity to build on them during our recovery.
Finally, our group discussed the uncertainty and sometimes conflicting messages that many military families were facing, especially during the first months of the pain points polling period. We found that despite clear guidance at the DoD level, the implementation of that guidance varied often from installation to installation, and also sometimes within installations. We found that there were unanticipated costs to military families associated with the Stop Movement Order, which even required legislative action to ameliorate. And many service members were concerned about their ability to receive a fair performance evaluation after training cancellations and so much time out of the field in the office. Needless to say, all of these issues impacted military families and veterans' mental health.
So, what can military and civilian leaders do to help? There are more ideas in the white paper. You're welcome to check it out on our website, but here are a few. Identify and help set the conditions for safe and effective use of flexible, non-traditional work and childcare arrangements until the threat of the virus dissipates. These adaptations should be tailored to local public health concerns. 2, you can use this experience as an opportunity to preserve and continue to build common understanding across the civil-military divide. You can conduct a comprehensive after-action review at the installation and national level to include focus groups and surveys of service members and their families to identify best practices for the future. And finally, you can reassure service members and their families early and often that they will not be held personally or financially accountable for challenges caused by unforeseen national emergencies.
Thank you to all of our working group participants for the important work you've done over the past 6 months to help narrow down our efforts and recommendations so that we can have a lasting impact on our military community. It's been one of the more difficult times in our nation's history, but it's also presented us with an opportunity to emerge stronger and more resilient. As mentioned in the data analysis working group session, it's forced us to recognize the importance of helping our military adapt to a 21st century workforce, culturally and structurally, in order to maintain operational readiness during a national emergency. At Blue Star Families, we propose the nation needs to evolve beyond the concept of a total force and to create the idea of a total family force. That's a force that recognizes the critical role of strong, resilient families to our readiness and our retention, both in words and in action. Key components of moving to an idea of the total family force would mean reliable childcare, great schools, a military culture that supports women in uniform, career flexibility and day-to-day predictability, local employment opportunities and military spouse employment, telework capabilities, and high-speed internet access. These are all national security issues, even when we're not in a pandemic. But their importance is now more clear than ever. Through COVID-19's military support initiative, we are action-oriented. Many of our partners have used information they learned and relationships they developed as part of this group to do amazing work. So thanks to the tireless work of our partners, we've been able to leverage, inform, and expand support for the military and veteran communities as we continue to respond to the COVID-19 crisis. We'd now like to share with you a short video that's highlighting some of the really significant work that leverages CMSI and creates impact in the lives of military families and the communities in which they live, shouting out some of our special partners. The significant commitment that Booz Allen Hamilton made to the COVID-19 Military Support Initiative has catalyzed tremendous impact with military families and communities, as seen here today. It also sparked thinking, leveraged relationships, and presented data and insights that have inspired and informed millions of dollars in new or reallocated projects and attendant funding that has affected and helped these communities. We're really proud to celebrate some of these additional initiatives today, along with their funding impacts. These are from our White Oak Collaborative partners. Join me in watching them.
I am Kara Dahlman. I'm a retired Navy veteran, married to a retired Navy veteran with 2 adult children, and I am so honored to be the executive director at Our Military Kids. Honor 120 is Our Military Kids' response to the COVID-19 pandemic. In the 120 days leading up to Veterans Day, children with a parent deployed overseas in the Guard or Reserve is eligible for 2 extracurricular activity grants. And children who have a parent activated stateside for an aggregated 120 days are, for the first time ever, eligible for 1 activity grant. We know how vulnerable the children of the Guard and Reserve are already, based on our survey data at Our Military Kids. And with the results of the Pain Points poll really showed how exacerbated all of these vulnerabilities really were. So we knew we wanted to take action. We knew the impact that our grants have, not only on the child's confidence, but on the entire family's morale and on the morale of the service member. Being a part of the CMSI working group was the most perfect way to help our military kids shape our COVID response. Bringing everything together, the CMSI working group, the Pain Points poll, the wonderful folks at the National Guard Bureau and programs, it just really helped us nail the COVID response in order to support a very vulnerable population of military children.
Hi, I'm Harriet Dominique, Senior Vice President of Corporate Responsibility for USAA. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today and join you in celebrating the great work of the COVID-19 Military Support Initiative. It's an honor to represent our USAA CEO, Wayne Peacock, and our 35,000 plus USAA employees. USAA has been a dedicated supporter of this initiative since its inception in early March of this year. Your weekly Pain Points poll research uncovered the urgent needs facing our military families as we navigated the early days of our pandemic. And your findings served as a North Star for USAA as we prioritized our contributions in support of military families. For nearly 100 years now, USAA's mission and sole purpose has been to support military families. That's what we're made for. And we continue to build on our legacy in support of military families through our Military Family Relief Initiative, a $30 million contribution in support of military families impacted by COVID-19. Thank you to our service members and your families for all that you do for our great nation.
Hi, I'm Steve Schwab, and I'm CEO of the Elizabeth Dole Foundation.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sherwin Sheik, the founder and CEO of CareLinks. Happy to be here.
We're so happy to talk about the CMSI initiative and the wonderful collaborative work that has allowed us to, CareLinks and the Dole Foundation, to work together to provide a COVID-focused program, a life-saving program to support the respite needs of military and veteran caregivers. We've been able to leverage the CMSI data to really bring that to bear and to activate the full power of this collaborative network that's come together to support military and veteran caregivers.
More and more, we're learning just how under stress they've become, these family caregivers, given COVID. Now parents fear what's going on with their loved ones, and we definitely saw an opportunity to want to serve and give back and help these military and veteran family caregivers. We're really honored and to be working with everyone here, and it was just a great opportunity.
All the data says that this is the top need among our caregivers. We need caregivers to step up and avail themselves of this support that that Sherwin has provided in standing up really a national model. We're so proud of our association with the Department of Veterans Affairs, the full power of the CMSI network that's been brought to bear to make this all possible has been an incredibly important arrow in our quiver to make sure that we can deliver. But our job is not done, and we'll continue to work with CMSI and all the great partners that come together to make this possible.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you to our partners at USAA, CareLinks, the Elizabeth Dole Foundation, Our Military Kids, and so many more of you who created these tremendous additional avenues of support for our veteran and military communities. And of course, we can't make a funding impact video without mentioning the sponsors of the COVID Military Support Initiative. The work on this initiative would not have been possible without their generous support. Booz Allen Hamilton provided a significant investment in this effort. USAA, as mentioned, also provided critical funding. And we also want to acknowledge the Association of Military Banks of America, the Bristol-Myers Squibb Foundation, the Military Housing Association, First Command Financial, Hunt Companies, and J.P. Morgan Chase & Company. We hope that you will all build on the momentum that these organizations have created, and to continue following the data to make a difference as military families and defense communities sustain their efforts to serve our country during these uncertain times. Thank you.
We are so proud of the work we have collaborated on over the past 6 months. Through our publications, polling, working groups, partnership meetings, and town halls, we have truly impacted change and increased support for the military and their response to the COVID-19 pandemic. More importantly, we have shared the amazing work of communities, organizations, and individuals around the country. These stories and the commitment they show to the military, despite the challenges of the pandemic, is a story I will never forget. We are truly one community on and off the base, working to support our mission, our families, and our communities. While the formal work of the initiative is ending, there's still more to be done. Our biggest hope is that you take away the lessons that you've learned throughout this initiative and figure out how you can apply them to your daily work, whether supporting military families or working in your communities. Please visit our website to access all the resources we've collected through the initiative. And as we saw today, a better prepared community is able to respond to a disaster and be more resilient as disasters end. Our speakers today also shared the insight into systemic changes that could be implemented in our military to help move towards a family-friendly force, making our military community more inclusive, more adaptable, and better able to rapidly respond to a changing global environment. Kathy, it looks like our time together is about to close. Thank you for your continued partnership in this great initiative. We are honored to share the stage with Blue Star families in this important work.
Thanks, Tim. And we're really, really honored to be with you all too. We have so enjoyed our collaborative work with ADC, which happened long before the pandemic, and goes to show how those robust relationships make all the difference when it counts. We look forward to our continued partnership with you in the future on this and many other issues. We cannot thank those of you who are with us today enough for all your support over the past months. It's been an honor to work on this crucially important work to ensure we are all able to maintain and support our all-volunteer force. Please watch your emails for a post-event email, which will contain a survey and links to the important documents we've referenced today. Thank you all for joining us. We look forward to working with you in the future.